Hello, my name is Kaylee Gruby, and I'm going to be giving a speech on putting an end to animal cruelty in zoos. Um, to introduce this speech, from zoos to even circuses, animal cruelty and animal captivity have been problems that have dated back as far as the 1950s, and no solution has been put up to the way they are treated and stuff like that. So, animals in captivity are truly not treated fairly, and they're simply used for people's entertainment and the business. So, although zoos are a very common attraction amongst American families, the quality of the affected animals' lives is never truly considered. And if it is, it's not well enough. So, by telling you guys this speech, I hope to prove that the improvisation of the animals living in zoos needs to be improved because their lives matter too. So, this should be an important topic to the audience because, first of all, animals are important to most people, whether it's a pet that you have at home or someone else's pet that you may cherish. Animals are just a very important, and if their quality of life matters at home, their quality of life should also matter if they're in a zoo. So, zoos are also a commonly visited place among some of my audience, maybe, and rather than just giving these places their money, maybe we should start paying attention more to the quality of life and to make sure that they are thriving in a zoo rather than getting treated unfairly. So I think I'm credible to speak on this topic because I am an animal lover, whether it comes to pets or literally any animal that I see while driving on the road. Like, they just make me happy and I have a soft spot for them, and I genuinely do care about the way animals are treated. I have researched many different ways that animals can be helped if they're in zoos, stuck in captivity, and I've watched documentaries on places that are no longer open due to the unfair treatment of their animals, and I have also written a speech in my high school government class regarding this topic. So to preview my speech, I will prove the adjustments that need to be made to improve the quality of life of animals in captivity. I will suggest a law or a policy that could be put into place to enlarge the animals' habitats, and I will prove that these laws will improve the quality of life of the animals because it's only for entertainment purposes as of now, and it needs to be more to make sure the animals are happy. And I will prove that the audience can help by signing petitions and closely observing animals' habitats when they visit zoos. So now that I have reviewed the topic of my speech, I would like to begin explaining the main issues that animals in captivity face. Animals removed from their natural habitats to be put in zoos are facing unfair treatment, clearly. So animals that are put in captivity don't have much room to grow and prosper like they would if they were still left in their natural habitat. So the New York Times states that large animals in the cat and bear family are doing so poorly in captivity that either their quality of life in captivity needs to be improved or it needs to be canceled completely. So this is obviously an ongoing problem because it's recognized by the New York Times, and they're saying that if it's not improved, then zoos could be shut down because their quality of life there is so bad. So the New York Times also stated that the typical zoo enclosure for a polar bear is 1/1,000,000th the size of its home range in the wild, which can reach 31,000 square miles. So some captive polar bears spend 25% of their day in what scientists call stereotypic pacing, and infant mortality for captive animals is around 65%. So polar bears in captivity have showed behaviors of depression, and they've also have not been able to reproduce, which is a serious problem considering they would easily be able to do something like that if they were still placed in their natural habitat. So to overview, the habitats in zoos are way too small for animals to grow and naturally prosper the way they were meant to. So the size of habitats has a negative impact on the animal's mental health also. So animals can actually suffer from mental health issues similar to humans. So according to BBC, some pet birds obsessively pluck their feathers, and some dogs obsessively lick their tails or paws, much as some humans obsessively lick their hands. And some animals are also known to self-harm, which, for instance, could be pulling out their own hair. So it seems that animal mental illnesses can be triggered by many of the factors that unleash mental illness in humans. So that includes the loss of family or companions, loss of freedom, stress, trauma, or abuse, and that is all from BBC. So considering how important mental health issues are taken in humans' brains, I think it's time that we also make animals' mental health important too, because they suffer from very similar things and portray similar behaviors. So to overview, animals' mental health can be impacted by their limitations in captivity similar to humans. So another point is that being confined to such a small space can cause animals to not be able to carry out their natural lifestyles. So animals in the wild go through a life cycle just like humans do. They consist of similar features such as mating, reproducing, and then literally living life until they die, just like humans do. But zoos are obviously holding back animals from reaching this full potential, just like I talked about in my first point, where reproduction is limited. And then also, according to Science Magazine, some animals thrive in capacity, but other species die young. They don't reproduce, and they show bizarre, repetitive behaviors. So those are all examples of how they're being held back. They don't get to live out their full life. They can't reproduce, and they're showing behaviors of like mental disorders like depression. Another quote from them is that captive polar bears, for instance, spend much of their day pacing back and forth, and clouded leopards pluck their fur out. So researchers believe these animals suffer because they're too confined to carry out their normal routines. So to sum that up, animals aren't able to live out their full potential in such confined spaces. So now that I have stated problems that can occur from animals in captivity, I would like to introduce a solution to this oncurring problem. So my solution is that it would be mandated that every zoo habitat must be able to support double the amount of animals that are actually living in the habitat. So an example of that would be if there are 7 monkeys living in a habitat, there would need to be enough space to for 14 monkeys to live in that space. So this solution would work because it will drastically increase the living space for zoo animals, which clearly is the main problem of the main cause of problems that animals in captivity face. This is a practical way to solve the problem because it doesn't cancel out zoos completely. It says nothing about banning zoos. It just requires them to provide more space and a better quality of life. According to NCBI, increased exhibit space for animals allows for performance of more natural behaviors and decreases occurrence of negative behaviors. So I would see an objection to this solution being that with more space, the animals would have more room to hide. And then consumers wouldn't want to attend the zoo as much because they wouldn't even be able to see the animals. So I think that the presence of visitors actually does have a negative impact on the animals' mental health as well. So according to Zoo Animal Welfare Education Center, the presence of people that are unfamiliar to the animals, as well as their movements, sounds, and smells, all can elicit a stress response in the animals and may negatively affect their welfare. So this means that less visitors would actually be beneficial to the health of the zoo animals, or the space factor will clear up other mental issues such as like depression and social skills, and this could possibly make them more sociable to visitors rather than them hiding all the time. Now that I have proposed my solution, I would like to discuss how the general public may benefit from from the solution. So consumers could have better interactions when visiting zoos due to the fixation of the animals' mental disabilities. According to CABI, while the charismatic animals which bring in customers are not necessarily ones whose living requirements can easily be met in captivity, not all animals are equally attractive to visitors, but zoos which depend on paying customers have to be attracted to the general public as a potential place to spend their leisure time and at least some of their discretionary income. So, with the improved social skills of animals due to their larger habitats and improving mental health, the public may even be more drawn to a zoo and more pleased with their experience. So now that I've discussed how the audience may benefit from the expansion of zoo animal habitats, I would like to recommend ways the audience can help make the solution possible. There are many petitions that you could sign on improving the quality of lives for animals in captivity on change.org. Another way the audience could help would be by when they go to zoos, observe the habitats, and if this law were to potentially be put into place, you could report the quality of life, the animals' behavior that you see, and just take note. So now that I've suggested a way the public can help enforce this policy, I will now conclude the speech. And in the speech, I have proven that animals in small habitats in zoos are suffering. I have proposed a possible solution to increase the habitat size, and I have proved how increasing the habitat size is realistic and will work for the animals. And I have given ways that the audience can assist in making the solution possible by signing petitions and observing the animals' habitats when they visit zoos.